Hello everyone, and welcome to this next edition of Skillathon. I hope all of you are doing well and a very happy new year to all of you. And as the Skillathon is in progress, we are assuming you would have completed some of your learning on the UiPath Academy. And before we end this Skillathon, we will have two live sessions, which is one that you're watching today, and we will also have another session soon. And in this two sessions, we will make sure that we will, address most of the queries that you have and how do you make the most of the UiPath Studio X platform and build an automation for yourself. With that being said, my name is Niaz and I work as a program manager at UiPath, and I'll be the host and the trainer for the two sessions that you will be going along with me. Now, let's not waste time and quickly jump to the Academy page. So this is the learning plan that you guys are going through, which is the RPA Citizen Developer Foundation. And we are assuming that you should have completed till the point that is decision, iteration, and scenario in Studio X. So we require you to complete till this part and then look ahead for this session today, because we will try to make sure that we will make the most of the learnings that you have done. We will try to get some exercises of let's look around the Studio X and see how best automation can help us in the professional and also in the personal world space also. So to start up with the academy training, of course, you have the very first pre-training surveys. We request you to go ahead and complete the pre-training survey first, and then you have your build your first automation with Studio X. It's a very basic module, and I'll not say a basic, but it's a very in-depth module which speaks about what is Studio X, what is automation all about, and then it gives you a very fair understanding of how to go ahead and build an automation for yourself. Make sure that all these modules that you complete individually, they also have a feedback embedded to it. So make sure you give the feedback, then only the progress will be marked as completed. If the feedback is not given, then the status of that learning module will be in progress. So with this way, we request you to complete the files and folders, getting started with citizen developers, the user interface automation, and coming to the last session, which is decision iteration scenarios in Studio X. Post this, we would request you to complete the rest of the scenarios and then come other for the second live sessions that we will be having very soon. Now, let's go ahead. Let's open up UiPath Studio X and let's see, what is the automation all about. So, of course, you have completed, the modules as of now in Academy. So you know best what is UiPath Studio X all about, what is automation all about. But let me just go ahead and give you a very quick refresher about it so that your learning becomes much more stronger. So allow me to open UiPath Studio X. There you go. This is how the UiPath Studio X platform looks like. And as you can see, it's a very plain interface. There is no fancy stuff here, because a citizen developer is also called as, any person. For example, it need not need to be a technical person, but, any non-techie people can also go ahead and use the Studio X and build the automations for themselves. Clear? Now, as you can see, there are a lot of parameters here, but in order to create a new project, all you need to do is you need to go ahead, click on a new, and then click on blank task. Here, you need to go ahead and give your task a name, which is nothing but a process. You would be familiar with the name of project, but in the automation space, we call it with the name as process. So whenever I say project or process, both of them means the same. If you are familiar with the project nomenclature, then make sure that we call it as process in the automation world. So we will build a very, very simple example, just like you would have learned in your colleges. Any programming language, if you would have learned, the very first thing that we do is we make sure that we go ahead and print the hello world message. So let's not break that tradition. Let's do the same thing. Let's go ahead and print the hello world message. So for that, let's give a project name. I'll make sure I'll give the project name also as Hello World so that I don't get confused about what is this project all about. And you also have to make sure that whenever you name a process, make sure that you name it in a meaningful way, such that whenever you read it, you should come to know that this is the process name and this is what the process is responsible to do. So you can go ahead and even add a description here that would explain it much more further. So I'll go ahead and I'll write here a very simple, sentence saying we are printing a hello world message. So we'll say printing, sorry for the typo. So I'll say printing hello world message. Done. Now let's go ahead and let's click on create. Allow it for some seconds, or maybe depending upon your machine configuration, it might even take some minutes. So let it be. And if you're doing it for the first time, it might even take, some more time since it has to, restore dependencies and also create the workspace and everything. So once our project is set up and once the interface is available for us to use, we'll go ahead and then we'll speak about, how do we use the UiPath Studio X. So there you go. This is how the UiPath Studio will look like to you. On the left-hand side, you can see that we have a panel, and this panel resembles the activities panel. As you can clearly see over here, the name is given as activity. So this panel on the left-hand side is called as the activities panel. And this is the very important part, which is the main part over here, the centerpiece. You can call it as a canvas because this is where all the automation will happen. So you'll have to make sure that all the automations that you're building it in the main file itself. On the on the right hand side, you have the properties window. So what does property exactly represents? For each and every activity, you can go ahead and you can configure few of these settings for it. We'll walk you across each and every activity and we will see that, properties changes as per the activity. Of course, there are some common properties across all of them, but each and every activity has its own set of properties. So these are the three main windows that you should, always, keep an eye on, which is the activities panel on the left side, the canvas, the designer panel on the, middle part of the screen, and the property panel on the right hand side of the screen. And of course, on the top, you have the designer ribbon bar. So we will make use of it as and when we need it. So with that being said, let me first go ahead, clear this diagram, and let me stop the annotation. And now let's go ahead and let me speak about what our activity is all about. So on the left-hand side, as you see, I said, we call it as the activities panel itself. But apart from activities over here, you also have favorites and recent. Recent basically means, what are the recent activities that you have used. So those will come and sit here in the recent. And favorite, what you can do is some of the activities which you commonly used or which you regularly use, you can add them in the favorites category, and then you can directly use it from the favorite section itself instead of going through each and activity individually. So since you would be doing it for the first time, you will only have activities. As you can see, under my favorites, under my recent, there are some of the activities because I have been using it from a very long time, but yours should be ideally empty if you're using it for the very first time. In the activities categories, you can see there are multiple categories over here. And the very important of all of them is also called as the resources. So as you can see under resources, you have activities which starts with the word use itself. So you can see use and all. So you can consider them as the top level activities, right? Which means, for example, if you want to work with Excel, you'll have to use Excel file as the very first activity, because you have to tell them I'm using Excel file And inside Excel, you can use all the Excel activities. In the same way, if you have to work with Gmail, you'll have to say use Gmail first and then use the other activities inside the Gmail box. So in this case, you have resources. And of course, after resources, you have very specific activities depending upon the task that they're responsible to do. For example, if you want to work with Excel, as I said earlier, you have a bunch of activities which works only for Excel. So if I expand the Excel categories from here, you can see that you have subcategories and you have few of the Excel activities here. So you have subcategories cell. So these are all the cell activities. These are all the chart activities. These are all the pivot table activities. These are all the range activities. And you also have workbook activities. So depending upon your need, depending upon what task you want to do in the Excel file, you can go ahead and start using this particular activities from here. So in the same manner, each and every activities are categorized as per their requirement. So choose the correct category and then start working on the corresponding activities depending upon the use case, process or project. Both are same, use case, project and process, whatever I say, they all represent a project or a process itself. So as I said, we started with the very first project and our task was to go ahead and print the hello world. So let's go ahead and let's print the hello world. And in order to print the hello world, we will use a message box, as in a window should be displayed in front of the user. And in that particular window, you should get the message hello world should be displayed on it. So in order to do that, we will use an activity and that activity name is called as message box. What you can do is you can of course go ahead, expand these, and from here you can use the activities and use it over here. Or one of the easiest way to do is go to the search bar over here and then directly search for the activity name itself. So the activity name is called as message box. See, there you go. So it's under the common categories. For example, if I go here, I have to expand to common, and then here I see message box. If not, as I said earlier, you can directly go ahead, use the search option and search for the activity, and the activity will be available here. Now, let's drag and drop the activities on the designer panel. So how do you drag? It's very simple, people. Click on the activity. To be more clear, it's a left click. Do not release the click, drag it and drop it onto the plus sign in the designer panel or the canvas. And there you go. That's how you drop it. Right, I'll delete it again. In order to delete it, you can select this activity and then press the delete key from the keyboard, or you can right click it and also delete it from here. So click on it, drag it and drop it onto the plus sign. Clear? That's it. Now, but our job is not yet completed. Our job is to go ahead and print the hello world, which means we are going ahead and typing a text. Hello world is a text, right? So we're going ahead and typing the text over here. So what I'll do is I'll click on the plus icon over here. As you can see in the message box over here, there is a plus icon available. You can click on the plus icon and then you can choose what do you want to write. Do you want to write a number? Do you want to display a date and time? Do you want to display a true false value? But in our case, we want to display a text. So we'll choose text and then over here, we'll go ahead and write the text. So our text is hello world. Done. Let's go ahead and let's click on the save button. Awesome. Done. So as you can see, the errors are gone here because we have already written our message over here. So in order to save it, you can use the keyboard shortcut Control S, or you can also go to the designer panel on the top left hand side of the screen and click on save. Now, let's go ahead and run this program. In order to run it, you have a run button here. So there's a play icon here. So you can go ahead and click on this run icon. So the moment you go ahead and click on the run icon, what happens is UiPath Studio will minimize itself. UiPath Studio will minimize itself, and then the robot will start executing it. So let's see it in action. So I'll click on the run button. So it will compile to check whether if there is any errors or there is any uh, any error in the code that we have written. So if yes, it will show us. If not, then the screen minimizes, and here you get the message box, and with the message which says hello world. Right, this is what we wanted, right? We wanted to display a message called as hello world to the user. Done. Awesome. Right, now let me quickly also speak about the properties window. Right, so if you click on the message box and then click on the properties window over here, you can see there are a few of the properties available over here, right? So as you can see, there's a property called as button. So what type of button do you want? You want a OK cancel, yes, no cancel, yes, no button. So in our case, I'll say, I want OK cancel button, or I say yes, no cancel. So your button will display this option called as yes, no cancel. So all these options are available. You can give a caption as in the title to the message box. That can also be added over here. There's also an option which says automatically close after, as in once the message box is displayed, automatically after X amount of time, the message box will get closed by itself. So you can configure that also. So let's say, example, I choose a duration and I'll say I want to close it after 5 seconds. That. So as you can see here, so for 5 seconds, the message box will be displayed. After 5 seconds, the message box will be automatically closed. Let's see this. Let's see if it works in the correct way that we're assuming. Let's click on the run button. And there you go. See, yes, no, cancel. Do you see that option that we did it? And let's wait for 5 seconds. And there you go, right? So the 5 seconds are completed and the message box got completely vanished from the screen, right? So this is how you go ahead and start building the automations from the UiPath Studio X screen, right? And as of course, we just have written the very first activities, that is the message box activity. We haven't went ahead and started with using the rest other activities that we have, but message box activity is a very good start to start your automation, because this gives you a very good understanding about how to use UiPath Studio X. As in, from the activities panel, drag and drop it to the designer panel, the middle part of the screen. If you need to configure any properties, then you can use the property windows on the left right hand side of the screen. So those things are pretty easy to understand it from here. Now, what I will do is I will give you, exactly 5 minutes to complete these exercises. So start a project, right? Create a StudioX project, start it, use the message box, display hello world. If needed, you can even configure the properties windows from here. So I'll give you exactly 5 minutes, and then we will go ahead and look at, some other topic from here, right? So please go ahead, take your 5 minutes and complete these exercises in this 5 minutes itself. 3 minutes more, people. Please go ahead, complete it so that we can move forward. Okay, so let's move forward, people. So let's take up another example, and let's see, how do we achieve, the power of automations. Because as of now, what we have done is we have only seen, you know, a message box which has just displayed hello world in front of us. But actually, when we speak about automation, or when we speak about, RPA, what we are expecting it, or what exactly RPA does is it makes sure that it automates the mundane and the repetitive task that a human has been doing it manually. For example, right, we interact with a screen, we enter data, we copy a data from one application and we enter it into some other application. So this kind of manual tedious task, what we can do is we can go ahead and we can automate it such that we don't want the human to do this job, this boring, repetitive, tedious task. We will allocate a machine, a robot, which is a software robot, to do it. And then human can concentrate on doing, much more advanced and complex jobs. So we'll start with one example, and that example will show you, how the bot interacts. Of course, that could not be, one of the ideal situation of an automation, but that will give you a very good and a very brief idea about, what automation exactly will look like. So it's a notepad application. So I'll tell you, what exactly we will be doing it with the notepad. So let's go ahead. Let's quickly create a new project. So I'll create a blank project, new task. Let's give it a name. So I'll say this is notepad example, and I'll say, you know, I'll say automating the notepad file. Done. Let's go ahead. Let's click on create. Meanwhile, I'll show you what exactly we have to do it over here. So we'll go ahead and open up a notepad file. And in this particular notepad file, what we have to do is we have to write a text over here. So our job should be opening up the notepad file, right? And then we'll write a text inside the notepad file. So we'll write Skillathon in the notepad file, and then we would have to save the notepad file. So we'll write Skillathon inside the notepad file, and we will save the notepad file. So it's as simple as it is, right? Or probably, when we break it down into, multiple steps, we can break it down into, 4 steps, if I'm not wrong. So we'll have to, open the notepad file, because, the software robot has to open it by itself. We will not open the notepad file. So opening the notepad file, then the second step would be typing into the notepad file, and then the third step would be saving the notepad file, and lastly the fourth and the last step would be closing the notepad file. So the 4 steps that we have is open the notepad, type the notepad, save into the notepad, and close the notepad file. So let's see how do we achieve this through the UiPath Studio X automation. So let's achieve it step by step. So the first step that we have is to open up the notepad file. So for that, as I said earlier, we would use the resource category, and we'll say use application/browser activity, because notepad is nothing but it's a Windows based application. So either it could be a browser or an application. So this activity works for both of them. So we'll drag and drop the application/browser activity. Make sure that the notepad file is opened up in the background, and then we'll say indicate the application to automate. So here is the notepad file. See, if I move out or if I come in, you can see the difference in the area that the bot is able to rectify. So now I have to select this. This is an application, as it says, correct? And there is, an area across the notepad file. So I'll make sure I'll select this particular notepad file itself. Done. So now he's telling me that this is the notepad file that you have selected. So that's fine. This is what exactly we wanted. So we wanted the notepad file to be, selected for us, and then we will make sure that we will go ahead and, we'll perform the rest of the activities from here. So once the notepad is opened up, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and we need to type in that particular notepad file. So we need to go ahead and type into that particular notepad file. So in order to type, we have activity. The activity name is called as type into activity. The activity name is called as type into. So you can search it in the search bar, search type into, and you will get this activity called as type into. The name itself is, self-explanatory, that this activity helps you type into an application or a browser. So let me drag and drop it over here. After this, inside this, let me show it to you again. So there, inside this use application, there's a plus icon here. So we'll drag and drop it over here. And then we'll indicate the area where we need to type this. So we'll indicate it. And where do we need to type this? Do we need to type here? No, right? Can we type here? No, that is not the correct area, right? So our area is this particular text area. As you can see, it's so smart that is able to identify each and every element from this page. So this is the correct area for me. So I'll indicate this area and I'll click here. Done. I'll say confirm. This is the area where I need to type. Once confirm is done, here you need to type the text. So click on the plus icon and choose text here. So I'll say I want to type a text. I'll choose text. What are we supposed to type? As we have discussed earlier, we are supposed to type Skillathon here. So we'll go ahead and choose Skillathon and let me click on save. That's it. Clear? Now, since we will be using a set of activities, people, I would request you to complete, step by step with me, since, it would not be, feasible for you to, add all the activities together. So I would request you to complete step by step. I'll give you 4 minutes for this. So we have used the use application activity and we have used the type into activity over here. So I would request you to please go ahead and complete these two activities. And then after that 4 minute, we'll go ahead and complete the rest part of it, which is saving into it and then, closing the notepad file. So we'll see that. So please go ahead, utilize this 4 minute and complete these two particular activities quickly. Awesome. So I hope you guys have completed. Let's go ahead, and before we, start building on to the next activities, let's run this and let's see, if these particular, activities are performing the way we are, we imagined it. So let's click on the run button. So there you go. Done. So this is something strange that came in, right? So our assumption is he should open up the, notepad, then type Skillathon, which it did correctly, but then automatically it is, closing the notepad file, because the moment you close the notepad file, then only you get this option, right? Do you want to save it? Yes, no, cancel. In that case, right? So probably I'll say, cancel, because I want to, end this automation over here. Now, why this happened, I'll tell you. For each and every activities of application, right? So whether you're using use application or browser activity, there is a property here. So whenever you use, each time whenever you use the use application or the browser activity, in the properties panel, you'll see there's a property called as close. So by default, what happens is when the program gets completed. So in our case, type into activity was the last activity. So after this, the program got completed. After the program gets completed, automatically it will close the automatically it will close the application. This is the default setting it is. In our case, we don't want to do it because we are, still testing it out. We are trying to make sure that, we do it the way we want. So what you can do is you can go ahead and change the property over here. So under close, you can click on the drop down menu and then you can say never close. So in that case, what will happen is it will not close the notepad application for you. So if you click on run now, so it starts the notepad. There you go. It writes Skillathon, and that's it. Done. There's nothing here. It did not close the notepad. The notepad is still available here. So this setting can be tweaked depending upon the use case or scenario that you're working on. So in our scenario, of course, we would, close it by ourselves. We don't want the application to, get close it. So in that case, currently as of now, we said don't close it. Later on, once we're done with it, we can say, okay, that's it, we are done. You can go ahead and close the application. So next thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and we need to save the notepad file, right? So we need to go ahead and we need to save the notepad file. So in order to save the notepad file, ideally we being a human, what we will do is we will click on file and then we will go ahead and click on save as, right? So we'll go click on file and then we'll go and click on save as, and then here we will write the file name. So we'll have to, kind of replicate the same thing for the bot also to do it. So we'll perform a click on file. So let's call the click activity. So we have an activity with the name click. There you go. Right? So it's a click activity. You might see, multiple click activity with other name, but it is just a click activity, nothing else. So it's click, drag and drop click after the type into activity or before the type into activity. Ideally, it should be after the type into activity, right? Because what we want is it should run it in the sequential manner. It should run it in the sequential manner, as in type into activity should work first and then the click activity should run after it. Does it make sense? Yep. So now let's go ahead. Let's click on the click activity, and where am I supposed to click? Just like the type into activity, now I have access to each and every part of this page. So where am I supposed to click? I'm supposed to click on the file here. So I'll click on file. Done. Let's click on confirm. Done. So clicking on file is done. So what we're assuming is now is after this, we'll go ahead and then we'll click on the save as window. After this, we'll go ahead and then we will click on the save as window. So let's go ahead, let's perform another click activity. So let's drag and drop the click activity again. And then let's indicate the save as window. So we have already clicked on file. So our assumption is I'll click on file again, and then the submenu window will open. And from that submenu window, I'll click on save as. This is what our assumption is, right? So let's test it out. So let's click on file. Now what? See, it is assuming that I want to click on file. See, if I click on confirm, see this, click on file, we have multiple times here. But this is not what we wanted, right? But of course, the bot is also, the recording also is not, wrong. You said him to click, wherever you tell him to click, he'll perform the click activity, as simple as it is. So what we will do is now we'll make use of a functionality, because the submenu window is something which is not readily available. It's hidden. We have to make it visible first, and then we will go ahead and click on the submenu window. So in order to do that, I'll show you a trick. So there are two ways, people, to do it, as in, to proceed forward, because we have two file activities, right? Two click on file activities. So one way is either you delete this and then drag and drop a new file click activity, or you can rework on this one. So you can click on these three lines. We call it as the hamburger menu. So click on the hamburger menu and then indicate the target on screen again. So now it is asking me to again indicate the correct target. So what we will do is now we will pause the recording. So do you see here? It says pause the configuration. So either you can click here or press F2 from your keyboard. So I'll press F2 from my keyboard. See, for this 5-sec timers, I have access to do whatever I want. Of course, I did not did anything because I wanted to show you. I'll click on F2 again. I'll click on file. I'll wait for that 5-second timer to go away. Once that 5-second timer is gone, do you see now? I have access to the submenu window. So I'll pause the recording. I'll open whichever window that I need, and then I'll start the, resume the recording again. I'll not say start, and then I'll resume the recording again. So that's it. I'll go ahead and I'll choose the save as window. Done. I'll click on confirm. Awesome. So once you click on save as, this window comes in, and here you need to type. Right? You need to type the file name over here. So let's go ahead. Let's type the file name. So for that, we will use the type into activity. So let's drag and drop the type into activity. Where am I supposed to type? Am I supposed to type here? No. Here? No. This is the area, the file name. So I'm supposed to type here. So I'll indicate this area, and then I'll click on confirm. Done. So now the next thing is you need to go ahead and give the file name, right? So you need to go ahead and you need to give the file name. So here, just like any type into activity, you can click on the plus icon, and then you can click on the text, and here you can give the file name. So if needed, I'll save it with the name Skillathon itself. I'll say save. You can add the extension .txt since it's a notepad text file, but ideally what happens is it's a notepad file, so it will automatically add a txt by itself. So we need to add it. Done? Clear? Now let's run it and see that if we are able to achieve the save options also. Before that, let me close the existing notepad file. I don't want to save it. I'll save this program and I'll click on run over here. So the notepad will start, correct, file, click on save as, Skillathon, and done, right? So easily, right? Clear? Now, the only thing that is left for us to do is we need to click on the save button, right? He's able to write Skillathon. Now we need to go ahead and perform a click on the save button. So let's go ahead. Let's choose the click activity once again. And let's say that I have to click on this save button. Done. Let's click on confirm. That's it. With that, our notepad file will be saved. So I'm closing the existing opened notepad file and let me run this program again. There you go. File, save as, done. It's done. If I see the notepad file, see, the title of the notepad file is Skillathon, which means it got saved with the name Skillathon. Clear? And that is how you go ahead and you do any all the programs that is there for us to do it, right? And if needed, I can go ahead and show you that the skeleton file was created in the folder that we just mentioned to him. So by default it is the documents that is for us. So inside document, see, here you go, here is the skeleton file that got created for us. So with that, we were able to complete 3 steps, people, which is opening up the notepad, typing into the notepad, and then saving the notepad. So now, of course, saving the notepad had multiple activities, which is fine. But now I request you to please go ahead and complete this. I'll give you 5 minutes to complete this example, as in the save as part, and then try to run it from the starting and see if the file is getting saved in the drive, the whichever that you have mentioned over here. Clear? So please go ahead, take your 5 minutes. Please make sure you complete it within 5 minutes so that we can proceed forward. 2 minutes left, people. Please hurry up. Okay, so let's move forward. Now, there's only one task left in front of us as of now is we need to go ahead and we need to close the notepad file. So in order to close the notepad file, people, we can, go by the traditional approach itself, which is, we can go to the, mouse click activity, and then we can perform a click activity and we can say, click on the X mark here. So what I meant by that is we'll use a click activity and then we can say, go ahead and perform a click over here, right? But ideally, as I said, we would not, go ahead and do that. The reason being that is simple because we have activities, as in the properties in the activities, which will help us to achieve this, right? So if you remember earlier in the open application properties, we had a property called as close. We manually made it to close, to not to close it. We say never close it. Now, what we can say is we can say always close it. So this will make sure that once my save is completed, that is click on the save button is completed. After that, it will go ahead and it will close the notepad file for me, right? So this is how the properties, will come into action, and it will help you to, go ahead and, do some of the tasks that that you might have to, use an activity for it, but instead that can be done through the properties window itself. So let's go ahead, let's test this out. Before you do that, make sure that, if the file is already saved, delete it from there, because we haven't wrote a logic to build a part where we can see, how to save, how to replace the, notepad file. So once you're comfortable with it, you can also build a logic for that. But now here, we are not looking at those logic here. So let's click on the run button. So ideally, it should perform all the steps now, right? There you go, and done. Perfect. So the notepad file has already been closed. There is no notepad file opened up, in my taskbar over here. So in this way, you can go ahead and, you can start using this, activities one by one, and you can, build an automation program out of it, right? Of course, we started with a very simple example, that is the Notepad example, where we said, we will use an application in order to start the Notepad file, and then we'll use a type into activity, and then we'll use a click activity, type into activity over here. We're using to type Skillathon because that is what we needed it. Of course, you can type whatever you need, and then we clicked on the file. So then we wanted to click on the save as after that. Now this was a little bit tricky for us because the save as window was a submenu window, and this window was not able to, achieve its task. As in this window, kept on getting disappearing from the screen, and we were not able to, point the element. But what we did is we used a functionality of the StudioX itself. We said, okay, let's pause the recording for 5 seconds, and eventually if I say 5 second, that 5 second can also be altered. You can increase it or you can decrease the 5 second timer also. 5 is the default. You can decrease the timer also. So you click on save as, and then of course when you click on save as, a new window opens up. In that new window, you need to write the file name, and then we went ahead and then we clicked on save. And ultimately, for closing the application, we used an example property over here itself, which said close, and we said always close this property, the window. So with this, we were able to go ahead and complete the entire uh, Notepad application, right? So building Notepad application is simple the way which you have seen it. And of course, all the automations that you will build would be simpler only if you know the logic well. If your approach is well, your analytical thinking is also at a great skill. In that case, you would be able to go ahead and build automations for yourself. There are a lot of ways where automation can help you. Even at your campuses, you can go ahead and look for automations, and if needed, you can always go and build automation inside your campus itself and help your teaching, non-teaching staff to get rid of the mundane task that they do. And what automation can also do is automation can increase the speed of the execution, right? So for example, if a human would take 5 minutes, eventually when you write a code, ideally a bot can do it within a minute. So even you're, saving times through the automation examples also, right? So we request you to follow the learning path very well, people, because there's a lot of good things mentioned in the learning path. We also speak about, see, how to play with Excel automations, how to play with email automations, right? Apart from that, we have added one module only for you, with the name is called as automation bootcamp with Studio X. So it's a learning path module that we have added only for the Skillathon event, where it speaks about multiple bots that can be built, right? So I have personally recorded those videos, and it's been added into a Wakelet module. So once you click on that, you will be redirected to this Wakelet module over here, and we have a lot of bot building exercises over here, right? So let me walk you across to all of them, because this will give you a very good and a brief idea about what level of automations can be built through it, right? So I've numbered it accordingly because I guess we have 5 exercises over here, so you can take up these exercises. So this is a zodiac sign finder. So here, everything about the code is mentioned here, as in exactly what you're supposed to do. Any a browser input file, whatever is there, everything is mentioned here. You have a YouTube video representing it. So once you click on that YouTube video, you can go ahead and navigate across to all of them. So everything is mentioned over here. And the same way, you also have the solution files also given over here, right? So you can click on the solution file, and then you can download the solution files from here, right? So you can click here, and then you can download the solution files from here. So these solution files are nothing but the Studio X file itself. The way we built our Notepad example just now. So this is the solution file that we have given to over here. So in the same way, we have exercise on the UiPath careers page. It involves Excel, a lot of cool functionalities over here. So again, we have a video available over here, so you can look at this video and then you can proceed further from here. Then again, the studio example, the studio solution file is also made available for you. Then the third is the participation certificate. So here you can go ahead and generate, the participation certificate for the candidates, that you have. A beautiful example which speaks about PowerPoint, Excel, and also saving it as a PDF. So those things are also involved over here. Before navigating to the video, you can download the input files from here because this input file is very much important. So you can download the input file. This input file contains those PDF, the PowerPoint, Excel file and everything. And then you have a corresponding videos for it. You can also go ahead, watch it on YouTube if in case the video does not play here, or you can directly play it from the Wakelet window itself. Then the solution file. And the second last is a movie rating example. Again, it involves going to a movie page, searching for the movie and getting the movie name over here. Again, one of the beautiful examples here. Solution files also for that movie example is given here. And then finally, we have a very beautiful example called as RPA challenge. It involves data entry examples where you have to enter a lot of data which is present in the Excel file into a web page. So you have first name, last name, role in company, all those data are available. So ideally there are 10 records as of now. But of course, if you make it for 10 records, eventually that program will run for multiple records. It can run even for 2 records. It can even run for 10,000 records, million records. Given the n number of records we have, the bot will be able to run it without any concern. Video tutorials for it, and of course the studio files for it, right? So please make sure that you go to this Wakelet link very carefully, and each and everything is being mentioned over here, as in what exactly you have to do it, what are the bot building exercises that you have done, and for that you need to go to this example over here, which is the automation bootcamp with Studio X, right? So make sure you complete this before you come to the next live sessions that we have, because in the next live session we would go ahead and we would look at some other use cases that we have, right? So we want all of you to be automation ready. You should have the citizen development skill. Of course, you can give the assessment over here itself. This is the assessment, a multiple choice questions over here, and after that you will receive the diploma certificate from the portal itself, right? And this will add a very great value to your portfolio, your resume, and you will also be acquiring one more skill, that is the citizen developer automation skills over here, right? So that was all for the day, people. We wish you, a very, wish you a good luck in your automation journey, and we'll see you soon in the next session that we have, right? Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and happy automation. Bye-bye.